So until then, let's keep the legend alive, and may the storytelling continue. And it gives me great pleasure to invite Michael, his son from his first marriage, to come up and share with us some more of the story.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hadn't heard it said before, so I can make fun of you and the pastor later, but welcome, everyone. Thank you for all that traveled very far, including international and out-of-state people. Can I see a hand? Who's out-of-state or international? That's amazing. You know, we have this award called the Iron Butt Award, and Marlin would find who's got the iron butt for traveling so far in their bumpy leaf spring over FJ40 Land Cruiser or something. So I want to see some more hands. I want to see who has wheeled with Marlin. This is more than I was expecting. Okay, who has camped with Marlin? You guys, look around. Look at this. Is crazy. How about this? Who's gone on a hike with Marlin? All right. Who has actually ridden in the crawler truck? No. Okay. Who has bought parts from Marlin? Wow. All right. Who has a Marlin part on their rig? Better be all the same of you. All right. Who went to church with Marlin? Wow. Look at this. Who has been to a Marlin crawler roundup? More than I was expecting there. Who remembers when Marlin had a full beard? Met him in person with a full beard. Okay, I'm getting the number down here. Okay. Who has worked for Marlin? Wow. Well, okay, I got one more. Who had Marlin as their bus driver? All right, so I have shared so many Marlin stories at so many events, but we want to keep time. I really want to hear your guys' stories. So instead of doing what I normally do to share stories, I decided I had a whole thing written up and just axed it. And what I want to do instead is share how to become a Marlin. And the first step would be to be extremely hardworking. Who has ever stopped by the shop after hours to pick up parts? After we've closed, you drive in late at night and Marlin's still there working, trying to get parts for you. Can I see your hands? Who has had Marlin deliver parts to them? Yeah, he would work past midnight growing up. But, I wouldn't see him till like 1, 2 a.m. I had the front room, and you would hear him park the car and come in and take off his boots. I'd often wake up and hear him, and this is just day after day, over and over, just the hardest working man I've ever known. Youth leader at church, go far out of his way to provide a service. How about this? Who had ever had Marlin invite them because maybe the job was going on, and he said, hey, why don't you stay at my house or come over and take a shower? Can I see hands? Who stayed at Marlin's house? Wow. Are you sure? You're not lying over here? Yeah, who knows what's known as Marlin time? My wife thinks it's transferred to me, but I reject this. We can argue that later. Marlin was a member of over 20 clubs at one time, and he was president of many of these clubs, and he was always active and always working and still raising the family and putting food on the table for us. That's a hard worker. That's the first step to be a Marlin. The second step is to have an obsessive attention to detail, and I don't need to mention that too much on that. Who has a part on their rig that has Marlin's handwriting on it somewhere? It's crazy. Marlin has documented everything. If you've ever been to our shop, if you ever remember our old crawler book, who's got a crawler that has a stamped number, that had a number stamped on the crawler? So I want to show this book. Marlin, he started a little side business called Marlin Toy Works, and he got into a lot of machining, which Crystal had mentioned that he had a big background on. And he has this surfacer, and this guy just documented every cylinder head, however many thousands of inches that he took off, every single date. Some of these have what temperature it was in the room when he was doing the valve job, because he wouldn't run the swamp cooler because he's trying to save electricity. It's just on and on and on. There's even where's Tom Allen at? Where's Tom? Tom's got a truck out here, that beautiful red first-gen truck, and Tom's name is like one of the last, is this correct? The last entry in this book, and it's really cool. And this is something that I think kind of led to our friend Chris Geiger, who is here today. Where's Chris? Chris put up on our website, on our About Us page, and labeled Marlin as an inspirational genius. And I think just his attention to detail and his hard work. So step 2 is that attention to detail, I would say, is needed to become a Marlin. Step 3, I would say, and some of you may not be blessed with this gift. My wife thinks I wasn't sometimes. It's to have an incredible memory. You need to have that passion to just ask and question things, and that's how he just learned things, and he kind of just became, we say a walking encyclopedia, but it's a walking Wikipedia, right? So. And he would remember just fine details of people. Let's show of hands, who has ever, when Marlin has walked up and you say, hey, Marlin, you probably don't remember me, and he did. Marlin comes up with obscure memories about you? So we went to Colorado for an FJ Cruiser Summit, and this guy comes up to our booth and he goes, hey, Marlin, you probably don't remember me, and that's all he could say. And then Marlin already said, wow, you lived in Southern California, and you lived down this cul-de-sac, and I couldn't swing my trailer around because you had this tree with this dumpster, and your daughter was in nursing school. Hey, did your daughter ever finish nursing school? This is literally what he asked this guy. And we're in Colorado, and he connected that from back in California. Just that memory is needed to be a Marlin. And good luck. Step 4, I would say, is to have an endless passion. This guy was crazy passionate about all things. He really wanted to get respect for Toyotas. He wanted to put Toyotas on the map. He would say this a lot. Who used to wheel back in the day, I'm speaking for my Toyota friends, who would be on a trail and you're the only Toyota on the trail? Did that ever happen? That's okay, this is more than I was thinking. There was a guy down the street from us called Stan the Man. It was a Jeep shop right down the road from us. And when Marlin came up with the dual case idea and he took it there, this guy, Stan, says, what are you doing? This is a 4-cylinder, long bed, long wheelbase. You can't find any parts for this thing. No, this is never going to sell. This is retarded. He just told Marlin, you're just crazy. And now I want to ask, who here has ever gone rock crawling? That's because of Marlin. And this endless passion led, I had to ask my mom to help me with this memory. They were up in Reno. Toyota was unveiling a new Tacoma, presumably the second-gen Tacoma. It could have been in 2004. And the Toyota was doing an event, and we don't recall why Marlin was there, but a few businesses had booths, and Toyota was there, and they had brought along Ivan Stewart to help show off the new Tacoma. And because it's got that cool thing called an IFS, it flexes sweet. So, I'll teach Steve about some IFS stuff later. And people were coming up to Marlin and asking for signatures, and Marlin didn't have a pen. And this lady went over she didn't know who Ivan was, and said, hey, sir, do you have a pen I can use? And Ivan thought she wanted to give him an autograph. And she says, thanks, and took it over to Marlin. Ivan Stewart's pen, and Marlin kept that, and then he began, and then Ivan walked over and said, hey, who are you? What's all this going on here? So you get to that point by having an endless passion for whatever it is in your life, whatever journey you're on, whatever occupation you're in. Be passionate about what you're doing. That's what Marlin definitely had. Step 5 is, we know this, it's helping others. Who's ever been repaired or rescued by Marlin? Can I see your hands? Who's ever seen Marlin welding on the trail? This guy created a welder before he created rock crawling in dual cases. He had a welder back in the early 90s, and he was already out welding people when, like, it's insane. I don't want to get into stories. I'll be here all day or all week. But Marlin was very selfless. I have a story about this. Okay, fine, I'll just tell it. So he got on Rubicon. No one knew about welders back then, and this was past the Granite Bowl. There were some granite slabs, and there's a lot of traffic, and Marlin rolls up, and he's at the end of all these Jeeps, and he goes up the front to see what's going on. And Sierra Trek? Okay, I've been corrected by Mrs. Crawler over here. And the guy had like a link mount or a motor mount had ripped off his frame, and Marlin's like, "Oh, I got a welder." And the guy's like, "You have a welder?" And Marlin says, "Sure, let me come up front." And they're like, "All right, let's make some room." And Marlin hops in his Toyota mini truck and starts making his way up. And when the guy saw he had a mini truck, he said, "What? I don't want to be repaired by no Toyota. Get out of here." And then Marlin's like, "Okay," and then they let him pass. And just no one knew about welders back then. And another story, we're talking about Panamint a lot, and there was one time my sister was there, and we got to the very last waterfall. I think it was waterfall 7, and there's a lot of water rushing in over your hood and so on, and a lot of these cruisers would run like steel radiators with no clutch fan. I probably don't need to ask for a show of hands for that. And water had gone, a lot of water gone up into the radiator. You know what happens when that fan doesn't stop spinning? It went right into the radiator, and it just cut out the core, and he started just dumping coolant all over the place. And so Marlin's got a brazing kit, of course. But then it starts snowing on us, and it's dark, and Crystal and I are in the cab with Mom, and we are freezing. And I should have had you say that. And Marlin just spends as long as it took to braze a radiator in the snow on the last waterfall. It's just crazy. This guy was the definition of selfless. He would always put the needs of others over his own. He's the most selfless person I've ever known. And that's definitely a big part in becoming a Marlin is helping others. And the final step is building lasting relationships. And I want to ask a series of questions here. Who has known Marlin for 10 years or longer? See your hands? 20 years or longer. 30 years or longer. No way. 40? Scott Johnson's here. 50? It must be 50 years that you've known him. Okay, I can go more. 60 years. These hands over here, should I go more? No, 60 is good. We've got guests here who came all the way from Tennessee, who Marlin, growing up, stayed, when they lived in Southern California, Marlin stayed with Kim Otis here, if you want to raise her hand. Her brother is Marlin's best friend growing up. This is Carrie? Carrie, thank you so much for being here. Marlin's best friend growing up. How many here have Marlin's cell phone number? Yeah, don't call, it's disconnected. How many have received fresh baked bread from Marlin Crawler or Automotive? Bread? Yeah? Was the bread any good? We made it. Marlin had a bread maker in the shop, and people would pay their bill, and Marlin would offer them like a loaf of fresh baked bread. And I remember when we got like this turbo baker that would do it in like 2 hours, and he knew the job would be finishing up, and he'd put all the flour, and we'd make cottage cheese bread and anything you could think of. And then he'd have that bread warm, and the customer would pick up the job, and here's bread. Okay, how about this? How about little heart crackers? Anyone get given heart crackers by Marlin? From the bakery. There's a bakery here in town that make these amazing heart crackers. Can I see the hands again? That's awesome. James Atterbury gave you some. I hope you still have those. You know?
the shelves so you could have them for later.
They're all expired anyway. Okay, who had ever had Marlin take them out to dinner? Can I see your hand? Breakfast, lunch, and then never pay for your, and then he would pay for your bill. Can I see? That's Marlin. Just incredible. Building that relationship and building the friendships. I think I will see some hands for this. Who remembers the exact maybe month or year that you met Marlin? Can I see hands? I'm always amazed when we go places. People can remember, and I think we're seeing it here with some upcoming stories, that people just remember where they were, what part of the trail they were on, what part was broken, how Marlin got to them, how many relays to the CB it took, and how many hours they had to wait for Marlin to come up the trail, and finally they got rescued by the red truck, and it's really amazing. And Steve mentioned this earlier, and I just want to ask one last question. Finally, how many of you think Marlin as a father? Any more solid? He was a father to a lot of people. Where's Sam Silvera? Where's Slinky? I texted Slinky. He came on short notice. He flew in from Hawaii, and I said, "Man, you got to be there." And then Sam says he was like a father to all of us, and I'll never forget that, Sam. And I think this is the true way that Marlin profited in life. So thank you.
Independent suspension, it flexes sweet. I'll give Michael's cell phone out to anyone who wants it for that comment. Last year at Easter Safari, Michael and I grabbed coffee in Moab, and I sat there. It was just right after Marlin had passed, and the family had just really been inundated by so many stories of the impact that Marlin's life had made on them. And I remember sitting there across from Michael just thinking, what an incredible man Marlin raised as his son. And you make us all proud today.
That shows the father Marlin was.
Yeah, 100%.